Hi, my name is Mary. I'm an alcoholic. And I have been led through the steps as they're laid out in the Big Book with the help of two Big Book step study sponsors under the guidance of a most loving and merciful God. I have made many amends, and I have many more to make. And my job is to live in 10, 11, and 12 to the best of my ability and willingness on a daily basis. And thank you, Chris, very much for asking me. There'll be more about that later. And thank you, Eric, for your service and any others that are doing service to this meeting. And I'm going to say this early because I always forget to say it at the end. But if there is anybody who is in the writing, if you're doing the writing or in the early stages of the process, please keep up with it because it is absolutely, absolutely, absolutely worth it. Your life will never be the same. I got here after 27 years in regular AA, and I say in, but it was in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And I never picked up a drink. But I got sober and started going to meetings, and I started doing things that people told me to do, and I did get a sponsor. And did some of the work, and then I moved back to Missouri, where I live now, and continued on. I got another sponsor, continued doing the work, and I did what I was told to do. And I had women who were good women, who had wonderful intentions and good hearts, but they didn't have directions. And I didn't find that out till recently. And so I did what they did, and I did what they said, but I felt like there was a lot of fellowshipping, and we went to meetings, and we did a lot of going out to lunch and dinner, and there was stuff going on. Went to socials. I did some work. I did some steps. I sponsored people, and I had no idea what I was doing. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And I did that for a lot of years. And then I got into a job that was really a very, I made it my vocation. I made it my life. I made it my everything. And I gave up everything else. And I focused on that job, and I quit going to meetings and quit working with a sponsor, quit doing all that. And I was an absolutely rageful, crazy person, dangerous person. And I couldn't stand to be in the room with myself. And that went on for quite a few years. And one day at work, I thought, I have to see somebody. I have to see somebody, meaning I have to get to a counselor. And I wound up getting back to meetings, but still it was the same stuff. And I heard in some meetings, people talk about the black in the book and directions, but I had no idea where they got that information. And I retired, COVID hit, and I ran into some people that I used to go to a regular meeting with. And I told one woman, I said, I need a sponsor, and I want a woman who's in the book. And I had no idea what I meant by that. And she said, well, I'm working with this woman. Let me introduce you to her. And in the parking lot of a McDonald's, because it was COVID, she sat there and said, this is how I was in 30 years. This is how I just did it with my new sponsor. And it's made all the difference for me. If you want what this offers, then you just agree to do the work. And then at the end, you agree to pass this on to women as it has been passed on to you. And I said yes to it, not knowing what I was signing up for. And so we began the process, and she talked to me about the nature of the disease, and we read the book, starting in the forewords, and then doctor's opinion, talked to me about the nature of the disease. We talked about the unmanageability of our lives, and unmanageability when I was drinking, absolutely. But that when my life was unmanageable with or without a drink, it didn't matter. And that the problem resided in my mind. The bottle, as it says, was just a symbol. And so then she had me, she talked to me about the powerlessness and that there was a power out there greater than me. And I was good with that because I had a relationship with God, and we did the third step. And then she had me sit down and start the fourth step. And then the writing in the turnarounds, I was given a prescription for a brand new pair of glasses. And that's where the change started to happen for me. I started seeing Mary for Mary, who she was. And I did my fourth step and sat there in the park and read that fifth step, just page after page of that junk that we all read it. And then she sent me home. I went to church and sat down in church and did 6 and 7. And then took my list and began setting up my amends and began making my amends. And then was given directions into for 10, 11, and 12. I began to my prayer life in 11 just changed dramatically, got deeper and broader, and my relationship with the God of my understanding just opened up. And then I began to be asked by women to sponsor them. And in the process of sponsoring women, I got into the book deeper, and the depth of what is in this book changed my life. So when I got to 12 and have gotten to 12 and started working with women, we started really getting deeper into the book, and how do I want to say this? Working with them has just given me a whole new outlook. And because I've done this work and getting into step 12, and I know you did step 12 part 1 and talked about a great deal about sponsorship, but in doing step 12, and it tells me because I've done the steps, I have had a spiritual awakening, and that spiritual awakening has allowed me to face life without having to pick up a drink. But that spiritual awakening has also changed my how I interact with my God and with everyone around me, whether they're in program or out of program, whether they're trying to do the work or if it's just a checker at Walmart. And so we tried to carry the message, and in trying to carry the message, I don't get to drag anybody by the hair across the finish line. I just share with them, as my sponsor said, share with them, take them through as you've been taken through. And then we practice these principles in all our affairs. And somewhere down the line, I heard about the principles, and there's a principle with each step. And so I looked that up, and looking at the principles: honesty, hope, faith, courage, integrity, willingness, humility, love, discipline, patience and perseverance, awareness of the presence of God, and then in step 12, service. And step 12 encompasses all the principles. In service, when I'm doing service, whether it's to another woman in recovery, and whether it's someone who walks into the meetings of AA, or whether it's my husband on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, I'm practicing these principles in all my affairs. And what does that look like for me today? We recently, an example is recently the associate pastor of our church announced that he was leaving, and about a month ago, and that he was being reassigned to a different parish. And I thought we have a family picture, a religious picture at home, and it's a big one. It's a big wall hanging, and it's been handed down in our family for about 60 years, and it's something that he would relate to. And I sent him an email and I said, if you would be interested in this, we would love to give it to you. I will tell you the family history of it. And he never responded. And this was a gift from the heart. I had talked to my sister. We were willing to give it to him and wanted him to have this gift if he wanted it. He did not respond. And old Mary would have gotten huffy and puffy. Old Mary would have shunned him for the next 30 days. Old Mary would have sent him little emails saying it was all kinds of stuff, like clearing my throat, that did you miss my email, whatever. And he didn't respond. And my sister recently asked me, she said, is he going to take it? And I said, no, he didn't respond. And I'm fine, and I'll just put it back on the wall. And it literally did not bother me. And I thought about in the book where it talks about being placed in a position of neutrality, mainly around drinking, but I was placed in neutrality about this. If he wanted it, fine, we would give it lovingly. If he didn't, fine, I'm sticking it back on the wall, placed in a position of neutrality. This is me. This is the new Mary, Mary with a new pair of glasses. Change her. This is different, Mary. This is different, Mary. Another example is I have a cousin who's living in an assisted living facility, and we have not been close. But since I retired, she calls when she needs a ride. She doesn't call to say, how are you? What's going on with the family? What's happening? She calls when she wants a ride someplace. And earlier on, I would just get so upset. She would call, she'd leave a message, and I'd call her back and she wouldn't answer. And I'd leave a voicemail and she wouldn't return my call. And she'd call and leave a message that says, I've got an appointment next Tuesday at 4:00. Will you take me? And I'd call back and she wouldn't respond. And after doing some additional writing in this work around her and around the situation, I have come to a new heart for her. She's my cousin. She has none of her immediate family is living. She's alone. She's living in an assisted living facility. And the only time she gets out is to go get her hair done. And now when I pick her up, when she calls, we work it out on the date. I pick her up. We go to get her hair done. We go out to lunch. And we hug. And I tell her I love her. And I mean it. Before I might have said it, but I sure didn't mean it. Now I say it and I mean it. I love her. I love her. And another example is I'm working with 4 sponsees right now, 5 sponsees, and they are at these ends of the political spectrum and these ends of where they are with organized religion. And I have the great blessing of being able to sit and listen to them rail about that party and rail about that party and who's doing what to whom in Washington. And I listen and I say, is that something you want to write about? I don't have to throw my hat in the ring and join that fight. I would have in the past. It's like, what do you mean? Have you thought about blah, blah, blah. Now it's I can draw it back to the writing. How might you write about that? Is that a fear or is that a resentment? Let's talk about that. And the same with religion. Some are very committed to organized religion, and others want nothing to do with it. And I'm able to listen lovingly and help them and work with them to work through whatever those blocks to the God of their understanding and serving their fellows are. These are gifts that old Mary, when I was in AA before I got to Big Book Step Study, and when I was sponsoring women, I was given advice, fast and furious. And if there was something on Oprah that day, I would give that too. There was no direction. It was just whatever. I was just shoveling it out. Now I can share direction and experience strength and hope. And a last example is when Chris asked me to speak at this meeting. My first thought was, oh gosh, maybe I'm going to have surgery that day, Chris. I don't think I can. Or maybe I've got to wash my hair that day. I really don't think I can, Chris. I really do not like to speak at meetings. It takes me back to old feelings about work. And this and when Chris asked, Chris has responded to me in the past when I've asked him to speak at a meeting. He responded recently when I asked him to chair a meeting for the month. So when Chris asked, even though I thought I'd rather have surgery, thank you, Chris, I said, of course I will, Chris. Yeah, just tell me when and what step, because not just because I want to do service, but because I wanted to respect and honor Chris's commitment and how he always responds. And I wanted to pay it back as he has paid it, as he has given. So this is new Mary on, and this is new Mary on a good day, because there's new Mary on a bad day when I leave those glasses or they get fogged over. And I think I just want to finish with a couple of things, and these are from the 12 and 12. When I read this part of the step in the big book, to me it is it gives good general direction. You know, I'm there for other people. It says we keep on the firing line of life with these motives. Your job now is to be at a place where you may be of maximum helpfulness to others, so never hesitate to go anywhere. And in the 12 and 12, it fleshes it out a little more for me about practicing these principles in all my affairs. It says, now comes a bigger question yet. What about the practice of these principles in all our affairs? Can we love the whole pattern of living as eagerly as we do the small segment of it we discover when we try to help other alcoholics achieve sobriety? Can we bring the same spirit of love and tolerance into our family lives, our daily work, into the world at large, into our religion of our choice? Can we find a new joy of living and trying to do something about all these things? It invites me to really bring this into every aspect of my life, because I can be happy, joyous, and free when I'm working with another alcoholic woman. But when I'm driving to a meeting, I may be not so happy, joyous, and free. I am called to practice these principles when I'm on the highway, when I'm in the kitchen, when I'm going to a family do, or when I'm sitting in church, when I'm sitting in traffic. Just one last thing from the 12 and 12. Still more wonderful is the feeling that we do not have to be specially distinguished among our fellows in order to be useful and profoundly happy. Service gladly rendered, obligations squarely met, troubles well accepted or solved with God's help, the knowledge that at home or in the world outside we are partners in a common effort, the well understood fact that in God's sight all human beings are important, the proof that love freely given surely brings a full return, the certainty that we are no longer isolated and alone in self-constructed prisons, the surety that we need no longer be square pegs and round holes, but can fit and belong in God's scheme of things. These are the permanent and legitimate satisfactions of right living for which no amount of pomp and circumstance, no heap of material possessions could possibly be substitutes. True ambition is the deep desire to live usefully and walk humbly under the grace of God. And I can do that wherever I am today, thanks to this program. So thank you all, and thanks, Chris, and again, everyone who's during service to this meeting.